Hey up everyone, and welcome back to another video. And in this one I'm going to be reviewing these Grizaye, something like that anyway, coloured charcoal pencils, which are also water soluble. I'm not sure how much I'm likely to use the water soluble aspect of them, but I'll definitely be using them because I've had more and more people ask me about coloured work that's not acrylic. So I decided to have a look for some coloured charcoal pencils, and most of them were just like tinted where you can't really see it colour until you actually wet them down. So anyway, I came across these. I saw a review video on YouTube about these, so I thought I'll get hold of some of these. I watched the review video and then got some myself, and then I thought I'd just do a video myself about them as well. Right, so I'm gonna try these on 3 different pieces of paper as well, which is going to be black frisk card. This is you can see how it's just a bit of scrap paper. This is Clairefontaine paint on the toned grey, which is what I do most of my tonal drawings on. And then this is some Fabriano Artistico hot press that I usually do my acrylic paintings on, just so that it's something that's white that I can try them on. So anyway, I had to order these from USA. It's quite a new brand apparently, so they're just sort of starting off. And obviously this is the packaging. Got your different colours and what have you on back. They're already pre-sharpened, so let's have a look. Here we go. Right, so first thing I noticed about these is, yeah, they're pre-sharpened, but the red one that's how it's come. It's lost its nib. Now, it is in bottom of pack, I can see it. Quite often I get my General's charcoal pencils that can come like that, and you know, it's not uncommon for this to happen, especially when they've like come across an ocean from a different continent and what have you. So I'm not going to really say much about that. I just hope that these are quite easy to sharpen, because that's one of the challenges that you face with any kinds of pencils, especially with something that's like got quite a soft lead in them. They can sometimes be a bit of a pain to sharpen. Now normally I use a Stanley knife to do sharpening, but there are some where the wood is just too... I've got this Cretacolor one. I bought, it's supposed to be like really black, so I bought a Cretacolor black. And look at how much is left, and that's mostly from just attempting to sharpen this thing. So, you know, it's just been a waste of money, so I'm not going to bother again. But so yeah, I'll just see how it is to actually sharpen it. But yeah, they look quite nice. They feel quite sturdy and well made and what have you. I mean, I'm not really all that bothered about that kind of thing anyway. I just care about how they perform. So I'll get that one sharpened, and then I'll get back to you and we'll start trying them out. Right, so I've got them sharpened. Managed to get that sharpened. I used one and it started breaking, so I used another, this one, and the larger hole on that one seemed to work better for this. One of the first things I noticed about the colour range really is the yellow, which is basically, it's more like a yellow ochre rather than a proper bright yellow. Now for me as a pet portrait artist, this is probably going to be more useful to me than a bright yellow. And I guess you can just buy like a yellow pastel pencil or something, because it does say that it's layerable with charcoal, graphite, pastel and coloured pencil, so you can use it with other mediums. I don't know, I'm not going to test it with all the other mediums to see how layerable it is with them, but yeah, that's the only thing. If you're, depending on what it is you're drawing, the kind of subjects you're drawing and what have you, that might be a bit of a problem for you. I think that's a good thing they could do, is to add, like I said, that will be very useful for me. I use this kind of colour a lot in pet portraits, but a lot of people who are doing other stuff will probably want like a bright yellow as well, and it might even be something that I need as well at some point. So obviously I can just get a pastel pencil and use that as in its place. And look at how much this one's gone down just from one sharpen. So the only thing that I'm concerned about really is some colours are probably going to go down a lot quicker than others, and when you need to replace any colours, it's like, will you be able to get them separately? That's the only other thing really. Or are you just going to end up just getting pastel pencils because you can buy them separately and just make do with that? But that's the only thing about we them being new and only like coming as a pack like this. Like I say, it's just a case that some colours are going to be used up more than others, and you're going to run out. Some pencils are just going to run out quicker than others. You might not have hardly touched some of them, whereas others might be nearly gone. So if you buy another full pack, you're going to end up having to buy a lot more, so, a bunch more colours that you don't actually need yet. So that's another thing. But anyway, let's get on with how they actually perform. So I'll start off with black. Now, because I use General's charcoals pencils, I might not actually use this much because I'll generally just use them. And I will sort of like, I'll compare the white and the black actually with the General's charcoal pencils. So here's this. And then the General's charcoal pencil looks very similar, feels quite similar. That's a 4B General's charcoal pencil. There's no point testing white on here, you'll not be able to see it really. I mean, I can just try it, but you can't really see it. Then we've got it don't have colours named on them, but this is like just a average brown. And this is the yellow ochre. Then we've got this like a mid grey, slightly on cooler side I reckon. Then we've got a purple. Colours are nice and vibrant. We've got a dark green. Could do a lighter green as well, to be honest, because that's quite a dark green and more on sort of like red end at scale rather than yellow. I've got a blue. Again, blues are one of them things where you often, it's quite a sort of milky warm blue. Blues are one of them things where you often need a lighter one and a darker one. But it's not so much a colour that I'll use that much of in pet portraits. You've got like a flesh colour, which is probably not going to... Oh, it does show quite a bit on here. Then we've got this sort of like a cross between purple and red. And then quite a vibrant looking orange. And finally this red, this normal red. So there we go. That's what they look like on Fabriano Artistico hot press. This is, I'm only using this because this is what paper, white paper I've got on hand, other than just cheap cartridge paper, so that's the only reason I've used this. I don't normally use Fabriano for charcoal at all because I don't usually use white paper. I usually do all my work on toned paper or black paper. But because I do my acrylic paintings on this, this is a £300 weight one, I thought I would just use a little offcut of this to test these on for the sake of this video, in case any viewers watching that like to work on white paper. Now this is just a bit of scrap paper, so just ignore them bits, scribbles at the bottom there. So obviously this is what I'm usually using on here. This is a charcoal, the General's charcoal pencil. And then this is a white General's charcoal pencil. It's only a pencil extender at minute because it's getting a bit shorter. And that's what they look like. And then obviously this is the new one. It goes on quite nice, looks quite good. There's not really much difference in blackness. Speaking of which, let's show you that Cretacolor one. That's when it first goes on. When you blend them though, what I found when you blended them, there weren't as much difference. So let's blend that. But yeah, it's just a pain sharpening that Cretacolor, so I lost most of my pencil just from trying to sharpen it. So anyway, let's try the brown. Oh, this goes on here a little bit nicer than it did on the Fabriano. I noticed the brown were a little bit less nice on Fabriano, the way it went on. It looked alright, it just didn't feel as nice. This goes on here nice, look at that. That's nice and bright on here. So I decided to just speed the rest of this up because I don't need to keep it at normal speed, just to show you how they go onto paper. They all went on it pretty nice and they're quite bright, and they felt nice going on as well on this paper compared to Fabriano. So yeah, they all look pretty nice on there. I mean, obviously grey don't show up as much because it's, well, grey paper. But yeah, they all go on quite nice. I think they go on here nicer than they do the they look alright Fabriano, they just didn't feel as nice going on. But I don't know, this is just one layer, I don't know what they'll be like layered up yet. Let's go on to black paper. Obviously black paper being black, I don't use much black on it. It's only for when I'm doing white on black drawings. I just want to refine some details that I've done with white, so I might just come in with a bit of black just to do that, where it's not really possible to do it with an eraser. So you can still see it, but obviously it's not gonna, there's not really much point other than like what I've just said, using black on black paper. So I will compare it to this is the white General's charcoal pencil on black paper, and this is the white Grizaye, whatever you call it. Why do they call me name that? So you never know how to pronounce. To be honest, that's quite, it's actually brighter than the General's on its first layer. It's actually quite bright compared to that. But we'll see how it performs layering up and what have you. Then we've got brown. It shows up but not as much. Again, I decided to speed this bit up, but all colours went onto black quite nicely. Most of them, other than brown, showed up quite nice as well, but brown's quite a dark colour, so obviously it's not going to show up as much on black as other brighter colours. Probably going to blend using one of these because obviously it's going to get contaminated with different colours. I have my blending stumps, but I'm going to see what they're like for layering. I'm going to start, if you blend with that, obviously it darkens it a lot, but that's what tends to happen anyway. And then no, it don't want to layer above that, at least not on this paper. It's having real trouble like layering. Turns out the problem was using the Q-tip or cotton bud to do the blending. It just didn't like it and didn't want to layer up when I'd blended with that. So I figured that out and switched to a blending stump, and obviously things started working a lot better from there. Let's find an old blending stump. Lays a little bit better if you blend it with a blending stump. Let's try that orange. Blend it with blending stump. As you can see, it takes it off a lot. And then try it on top. Yeah, it blends a lot better if you use a blending stump. So don't use a cotton bud or Q-tip as you call them in USA, I know, but we call them cotton buds. I just thought I'd use that to avoid like colour contamination on, but I'm just gonna use this blending stump as I normally would anyway. It don't really seem to be doing, you know, that much in colour contamination anyway. So this is the dark red. So yeah, they're working a lot better now that, because it's a lighter colour, I'll blend with other end at stick. So anyway, I'll move it across to the other papers. So we'll go back to grey paper, and I'll just test a couple of them. So we'll test that red. And we'll just try the white paper. Again, there might be other white papers that are more suitable than this one. This is a watercolour paper at end of day. It's not actually made for dry mediums. A lot of people do use it for dry mediums. So I'll try the orange again. Yep, goes on top quite nicely. And then we'll try the yellow ochre as well. I don't really like this surface as much for these, but they look all right on it. But it's probably, I don't know, there's like a bit of a softness, like too much of a gifted surface on this for like soft mediums for me, if you know what I mean. So it won't be my favourite surface to use these on. Might be for coloured pencils because they're more firm, but not charcoal. But saying that, if I use my General's charcoals on here, they go on it alright. Again, it won't be my favourite surface to use charcoals on in general anyway, so, but you can still see what they look like on white paper. Right, so we're back. And I'm going to try, I've got one of these water pens. So that I could try watering these down. So, I've never used one of these before, I'm just going to push it a little bit to make some water come out. Oops, a bit much came out there. I'm not used to using these. It's a bit too much water there, but it's not, even though the water's gone a bit reddish, it's not really moved the charcoal about like it should. This is a watercolour paper, so obviously, you know, it's worked a bit better on that than on red. It might have been. I'll try that red again. I'll put another. And I'll just try it now I've gotten this going. That's better. It's because just a big blob of water came out of this pen because it's the first time I've ever used it. So that's the General's charcoals. And actually they are quite water soluble. Just as water soluble as these. So yeah, that's something. Learn something new every day. The brown. I need some actual water to dip this in between colours. It's the yellow ochre. The grey, and the purple. A little bit too much water came out again, but green. You can sort of mingle them together a little bit. Blue. Oops, that got a bit contaminated. I really could do with some water on here. I'll put some more on. Let's try this flesh colour again with a clean brush. It looks a bit boring. That's on white paper anyway, but that's how they basically all look. We shall try using pencil on top of that again once it's dried. But yeah, it works quite nice like watercolour. But we shall move on to the grey paper. So anyway, I think the grey paper's probably not going to be quite as good as the white for watering down, partly because once you've watered it down, the colour don't show up quite as much on the grey. I mean, everything watered down pretty okay. There were a couple of colours where you've sort of got a bit of a patch still in the middle and the colour didn't all seem to like water down properly. But I suppose part of that is how you lay your colour down prior to watering it down as well. And obviously with the black paper, it's not really going to be that much of an advantage because once you've watered it down, it doesn't show very well unless you want a really subtle effect, or using it as a layering process and you want it to go over the top, you know, with more dry pencil, it might work. But yeah, it's obviously not going to show up as much because of darkness at paper. So anyway, once they'd all dried, I decided to just play around on all pieces of paper, just going over the top of the dried, you know, water soluble part and having a play around, blending it, going over the top of it again on all three papers. It performed pretty well. I didn't have any serious issues. You can see how it looks in footage. I've found since making this video that only using them dry, by the way, that I've not needed to use the blending stump so much when I've added any colour to actual drawings, and I've found that they work a little bit better the less that you use a blending stump. Obviously I were using one here just to have a play around and see, but I think obviously my technique on using these, it just needs to develop a little bit more, I think, to get the better out of them. You'll see evidence of this in the next clip where I am going to be doing a test drawing of a dog using these, and it's the first ever actual portrait that I did in them, and obviously I need to develop my technique quite a little bit more. Well, I'm here with me drawing, and I've put the outline on ready. Now I'm really not sure how I'm going to be able to manage getting the colours correct with the limited palette that I've got here. Apparently a friend tells me that this colour's the most, the colour that this dog is the most challenging colour to do, using pastel pencils as well. They can never quite get it right because the browns are either just a little bit too warm or a little bit too cool. But anyway, I'm just going to see what I can do. So like with normal black and white charcoal, I'm just gonna put some whites in first. Well, that's first layer and blended, and it's not looking too bad. We'll have to see how it fares when I start trying to build up on that. But yeah, it's not looking too bad at all, really. Say I'm not going to try and make it too detailed, but obviously when you've blended, just as they go light, it mutes the colour a lot as well. I mean, I could get some, for the purpose of this video I wanted to only use these, so I didn't want to mix it with other mediums, so to speak. But if I can make it work with like pastels and the General's charcoal pencils, then I can maybe sort of get, you know, some other colours to make it work better. But yeah, that's how it looks at minute, just blended. I'm not going to be wetting it, so it is going to be staying dry. But yeah, that's how it's looking at minute, but we'll see how it gets on as I add another layer. So anyway, I decided to speed the rest of this up, otherwise it'll just make the video way too long. And main things I've got to say about using these in this portrait is that it were a little bit challenging with the limited colour palette. As I already mentioned, I think the colour of this dog were just a challenging colour to create anyway, and a friend of mine said that she'd had trouble with this colour even with pastel pencils that have got a wide range of colours. It just seems to be an awkward colour to get. So yeah, that were a little bit of a challenge. And I also found a little bit of a challenge when it came to layering on ears, the spaniel ears. But again, I think I really need to do a little bit more practice with these pencils, because they might not need as much blending as what the usual charcoal does. After using them again in some subsequent works, I found that you just don't need to blend them as much in order to layer up and get the colours and mixes that you want. I've not used them an whole lot, so yeah, I think I do need to work with them some more and develop my technique with them, because they are a little bit different to using just black and white charcoal. I mean, this portrait ended up turning out alright. It could have been better, but The person whose dog it was decided she liked it anyway, so she bought it. It were an option anyway. It were just like part of a competition where somebody could have the dog drawn just to be part of this video, basically. A portrait where I would get to use like some colours and not just black and white. So obviously this spaniel with the liver colour was what won the actual competition. And she'd recently had to have him put to sleep as well because of health problems. So it were a bit of a memorial piece for her as well. I have done a painting of him in the past with her other dogs in that painting as well, but now that he's been put to sleep, it were just a nice little memo for her to have of him. So anyway, I think I've pretty much done, and my conclusion is that I will keep using them. I think the limited colours are a little bit limiting. It's going to be a case if I want to develop colour a bit, I'd have to buy some pastels as well. I will post further coloured work that I do using them, and I might also plan to maybe do some stuff where you do wet them down as well, because they were working nice when you wet them down and the way they blended into each other and what have you. So yeah, they are nice pencils, and I'm quite sure that a lot of you would enjoy them if you did get them. So anyway, that is my review video, and I hope that you found this video helpful in deciding on whether you want to buy these or not and give them a try. So I think that's going to do it for this video, so I'll see you in my next one. Bye!